Welcome everyone to Into the Wild League Week 2. I'm here with my co-caster Wildcat. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good, Blue. How you doing?
Doing okay. Happy to be joining you once again for another Into the Wild League match. A little bit of a scheduling snafu. So much to my benefit, I get to cast 2 games this week. So super excited for that opportunity.
Yeah, we love having you.
Oh,
So
thanks.
the August season is of course nearing its end. It's the last day of the season, and it's nearing the end of the second week of the Into the Wild League. But we've got JonahRah versus MrDollSteak today, and this is of course this week all the games that we've had so far, and we'll continue to have. I think there's one more tomorrow. Are going to be the 3 restrictions, and the first one is the everyone must have a quest deck. Everyone must have a pauper deck, which is basic or common cards only. And the third one is a combination of classic, basic, goblins versus gnomes cards and boomsday cards. So Jonah is bringing a combo priest for his pauper deck. He's bringing a mech shaman for his GVG boomsday deck, and a quest rogue for his quest deck.
Ooh, the Quest Rogue.
Yep,
Interesting.
yep, that's gonna get ugly.
Yeah.
um, so MrDollSteak is also bringing a combo priest. Very similar decks. I think there may have been 1 or 2 card differences that I noticed. And then he's going with the mech mage. I don't think Blue, have we seen a mech mage yet in this series? It's a couple of games I missed during the week, but you haven't seen a mech mage yet, right?
I personally haven't seen one, so
Yeah.
pretty cool and looking to see how it performs.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we haven't, especially as popular as that was back in the Goblins versus Gnomes days. But that's his GVG Boomsday deck, and then he's bringing Quest Warrior for his Quest deck.
Mm.
So you want to throw those rules up, and I'll go over the regular Into the Wild League rules for them.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got the format and rules are the Into the Wild League. We use an innovative format introduced by the JonahRah League. The matches are played once a week in a best-of-5 conquest format, where players are required to win with all 3 classes. Every other week there'll be a deck building challenge, which is this week. So the next one will be in 2 weeks from now. And then of course, all matches are Into the Wild format. You can bring a standard deck, but why do that when you can play with all the cards in the Wild format? Players are required to bring all 9 classes, 3 each week, and then there's buys for each player throughout, spread about, and there are no bans. So for the first week, the players chose any 3 classes. It was just regular, almost kind of like ladder decks. Week, like I said before, the players choose the next 3 classes of the remaining 6 to do the special restrictions, and then next week they'll be bringing their last 3 classes to finish off with the standard or the regular format. So once a class has been selected for a particular week, that class cannot be used again until all remaining classes have been selected, even if the player did not get to use that class in his or her matches. For example, like my game this week, I did not play my priest deck. I still cannot play my priest until the class is resetting.
So part of the mission of the Into the Wild League is to showcase the format, and so these restrictions really help to introduce some variety so that we will see the top decks played, but also maybe some off-meta choices as well as some of the more popular classes or strategies get used up. So I'm going to go ahead and signal to Jonah and MrDollSteak to get into game so we can see game 1. Any predictions as to what decks you think they might bring?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I think they might start out strong with their quest decks. That's my prediction. I've seen like the pauper decks starting out. Pauper decks probably should wait till the last match, from my experience. But we'll see what they choose, what their strategy is. And also, I just want to make a quick mention for the Into the Wild League. Please remember to sub on YouTube. All the VODs are going to be posted there. It would mean a lot to the organizers, the hosts, Craig and Nate, because if we get to 100 subs, then they can actually call it YouTube/Into the Wild. So that would be a big help if you guys could sub. But if not, just check out the VODs. We appreciate it.
So while we wait for the game to begin, one of the decks that I'm pretty interested in seeing is that Shaman deck that JonahRah brought. Mech Shaman was something that saw some fringe play in the Goblin versus Gnome era. And here we go.
Yeah, Mech Shaman was definitely a strong deck for a while. It was probably like, I'd say tier 3, tier 4 for a good period. But yeah, it was a strong one. So, yeah, the quest deck starting out from JonahRah. And still, I didn't get to see what MrDollSteak is bringing quite yet. Let's see.
So it looks like MrDollSteak brought that combo priest.
There it is. Okay, yep.
Quest Rogue seeing quite a resurgence in Standard, kind of becoming the scourge of that format. Are we going to see a third ban on the Caverns Below? So Jonah bringing some of his Standard stylings here to the Into the Wild League.
I think it's a fair deck now. It's still a challenging deck, but having all the creatures become 4s, I mean, they're susceptible to so much removal now. Flame Strike is the first one that brings to mind that they weren't, with them being all 5s, were not capable of being destroyed before. So it's a strong start here by MrDollSteak. He's got the 2/2/3s out there. He's got tempo, so he's going to be able to stop anything that JonahRah brings, any of the 1/1s that JonahRah is going to put out.
Yeah, the lineup here, the matchup's tricky because the combo priest can burst down the quest rogue quite easily. But if MrDollSteak can't OTK with those inner fires, making those giant minions, he is quite susceptible to sap and vanish. So, I think that this is going to be a blowout one way or another. So the big question is, will MrDollSteak be able to get his combo pieces before Jonah can stabilize with those saps and vanishes that will return minions back to MrDollSteak's hand, negating the enhancements?
Right. I think Jonah is in a situation where he has to try to flip his minions quickly and try to get that quest off as fast as he can. If he leaves anything out, it just dies. I really think early on it looks like DollSteak is favored just because of the size of his minions. But that said, if he does make something too big, you're absolutely right. He's completely susceptible to getting sapped. So it should be very interesting. Oh, that is a Divine Spirit. That's really good. But he's probably going to want to hold on to that until he's ready to make the final kill. And the fact that JonahRah's at 19 really holds well for DollSteak right now.
Yeah, as a combo priest, you want to hold on to that board. It's super important. And MrDollSteak does have the board at present. He also has lots of card draw, which is essential for getting combo pieces. So while he doesn't have the goods to close the game out just yet, he's certainly on his way to. And there we see the Divine Spirit. So taking a bit of a gamble, because if Jonah has a sap in hand or a vanish, which he does,
yeah,
he can negate that. MrDollSteak's asking the question, and does Jonah have the answer? Not yet, because he's not at 6 mana, lacking a prep, but he does have the coin, and there it is. So a punish from Jonah to MrDollSteak because losing a Divine Spirit is going to be pretty tough. So I think we've got a game on our hands and not clear on who has the advantage at this point.
Right, but he can reset fairly easily. The minions the minions that DollSteak has are fairly cheap. So again, he's completely reset his board. Just doesn't have the 12. He's got a 12/6 instead of a 12/12 right now. And Jonah's only at 13, so he's still in trouble. The Giggling Inventor's at least going to slow that process or progress a little bit.
Yeah, one of the new cards from the Boomsday Project, seeing lots of play. Again, lots of Standard players are calling for a nerf on Giggling Inventor, and while not an oppressive card in Wild, in Standard it certainly has made a splash, seeing a high level of play in many decks, including the aforementioned Quest Rogue that Jonah brought in its Standard incarnation.
Okay, we got DollSteak filling this board right now. I mean, he probably assumes that Jonah's not going to have another advantage, so he's in a fairly safe spot. He's just got to get through all these annoying little taunts and annoyatrons and whatnot that are just kind of muddying his game plan up right now.
And Jonah getting very close to completing that quest. The Shadow Step will allow him to complete it. So that board of fairly small minions is quickly going to become a board state of 5/5 minions, which is pretty scary. And as these are taunts, or excuse me, 4/4s, yes. Nerf number 2, I forget myself. You know, this is going to answer MrDollSteak's board, and while game's certainly not over, you know, losing boards certainly is closing the window of opportunity for MrDollSteak to close out this game.
All right, and Jonah did take out some key pieces there. He took out his card draw and his card cheapness. So he's, you know, DollSteak is going to be stuck with for the most part what he has in his hand. His ability to flip his board is going to be hindered. But you know, I said again, with all the nerfs, it's a much less intimidating board there. You know, it doesn't die to Shadow Reaper Anduin anymore, but Shadow Reaper Anduin isn't seeing as much play as it used to either. So, but DollSteak is going to be able to just keep taking that 4/8 and just be able to keep pinging down those annoying little mechs.
It's true.
If he wasn't frozen.
Once Jonah gets the Valera up, however, the value that card generates is going to make it really hard for MrDollSteak to stay in this game. You know, if the game degenerates into a top deck war, you know, getting 2 cards a turn is far better than 1. I think we are seeing things begin to unravel for MrDollSteak here, as Jonah has a large and what looks like unsurmountable board.
Right, he's definitely setting up for lethal, but I'm kind of curious why he played the Stone Tusk 4. I think that might have been a good one to hold back to use with Valera to double up. But you know, if DollSteak can't answer this, I mean, it's a moot point regardless. Access denied. And he's got a small taunt up there. It's going to slow things down. I think Jonah still has lethal on board, if the math is correct. Got 4, 12, 16, 17, 18 on 19 on board.
But that 1/5 taunt
is... So he's short. He's got 14 going to the face.
Correct. So we've got one more turn to close this out. You know, maybe that 2/4 taunt minion, maybe MrDollSteak's hoping for a Potion of Madness or something that will allow him to open things up to get lethal. But with the healing from the lifesteal minion, you know, Jonah going back up to 19, making things a little trickier. Wow, and there's that Divine Spirit. But if there's an empty board, I'm not sure it's going to be enough. And of course, there's Valera, so it's going to buy him a turn regardless. Miracles? No miracle today. There's the concede.
That's it. Concede, yeah. And again, this is this has been one of the challenges of this deck challenge week as well, is the mismatches almost. The pauper deck versus the quest deck is. It's not that it's unwinnable, you know, because DollSteak definitely had a good start. He was certainly in control for.
Oh, and it sounds like they're getting back into game. Okay. Yeah. So let's go right away to game so we don't miss our mulligan. All right. And it looks like we have Jonah's Combo Priest versus MrDollSteak's Mech Mage. Going to be an interesting match. Both players are going to be aggressively trying to seize board. For he who controls the board will ultimately be able to execute their game plan. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
board state looks very similar to the to the last one for MrDollSteak, just
Yep,
on
Zombie
the other
Chow,
opponent. Yeah, Zombie
and
Chow and Radiant Elemental
which are
start.
both key cards to executing that game plan. Radiant Elemental discounts spells by 1, and really is an engine that powers this deck. But a timely Frostbolt's going to put this board in a state of play. So a good choice from MrDollSteak there.
Jonah's in a good position. He's got the Shadow Ascendant in hand as well. He might. It's almost like who buffs. Yeah, it's almost like who buffs faster. But I bet we see that. I wonder if we see. Yeah, they see the the Shrinkmeister's coming down. Is she on the Cogmaster, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that certainly would allow for a much more favorable trade. Looks like Jonah's reconsidering, however. You know, the Acolyte of Pain is probably going to be a key card in executing that game plan, allowing to outrace MrDollSteak here. And we do see that Shadow Ascendant come down, buffing the Shrinkmeister.
So I'm thinking Dollsteak's probably going to want to play. Yeah, as I say, it's either that or the piloted Shredder to just to try to answer. But he's way behind on tempo right now. Then there's a Villain's Chosen. That's going right on the Shadow Ascendant. And let the buff party begin, because
I would like to note, however, that MrDollSteak does have Stargazer Luna in hand, which might prove to be a bit of a value engine. Unfortunately, cards on the is it the rightmost or leftmost side? I don't even know my cards.
the rightmost
side,
yes,
are fairly expensive, so he'll need to have at least 8 mana at this point to be able to even get 1 draw off of Stargazer Luna. So a pretty big conundrum here.
Right. If she can live, that's the thing. I mean, with that 5/3 out there, it's not conceivable. At this point, I don't think she's playable. I think you just got to go with the taunts, and try to save her for the next turn following, and then hope that you draw fair cards.
This is a bit
so
of
you can start cycling.
This is a bit of a double-edged sword. Playing the Giggling Inventor is going to allow Jonah to get a lot of value off that Acolyte of Pain, which is pretty scary in this type of a situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not saying that was the wrong play on MrDollSteak's part, but it does hurt from his perspective to see Jonah start drawing cards.
Yeah, but absolutely. But you can't not play the Giggling situation. You need to stabilize. I totally get it. I'm sure that was consideration as well, giving those Acolyte pings. But yeah, this at least allows him. Always go with the Spider Tank. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, trying to contest that board. Piloted Shredder, one of the original broken cards from Goblins versus Gnomes. I don't have my face cam up, but broken was hand quotes. It's one of those cards that used to be very powerful. Still good, but not quite to the same power level it once was. Power creep has certainly put some old favorites like Piloted Shredder and Dr. Boom into perspective.
So he's going to Divine Spirit the Tar Creeper and just make it almost insurmountable to get through. Trying to think if there's anything in this deck in Dollsteak's deck that can get through that 114. That's just, it's not, it's that health is just too much right now.
Wow. And just getting a complete seizure of the board here. Well played coming out from MrDollSteak. While this game's not over, it's looking like it's going to be a tough... Oh, and there we go. A YOLO with Luna.
Right. Let's see. Yeah, but again, I don't know what's going to get through 14 health of a Tar Creeper to actually be able to hit face. Yeah.
Maybe Frostbolt it? No, he hangs on to it because he opts to ping the minion instead. So if Jonah were to draw a Inner Fire, that would have been GG, but... another Divine Spirit, not quite what Jonah was looking for, but
he's going to keep finding it with the buff on the Acolyte. That's going to get him there at some point. There's the Inner Fire. So that's game.
Jonah did something really interesting. He buffed the Acolyte instead of making the Tar Creeper super huge. Um, and the reason he did that, while he had the game in the bag, it was a little bit of a hedge on his part in case something were to happen to the Tar Creeper. So a great choice on his part, just showing his innate skill piloting that combo priest, which, while an inexpensive deck to craft, extremely difficult to play. I don't have many accomplishments as a Hearthstone player, but piloting that deck to rank 5 in Wild was is one of them.
Congratulations, and yeah,
Thank you.
that's further than I've taken it for sure. I've played a lot of combo priest. I like my big slow big priests much more, but yeah, it's definitely difficult. And buffing that acolyte gave him, it also just gives him a second chance to keep punching away and keep finding to cycle through his deck. It's a guaranteed cycle, because he could just keep healing it back up.
So Jonah taking a comfortable lead here, 2 games to 0. Are we going to see a full sweep? It's a distinct possibility. Jonah saving his Mech Shaman for last, and that list looks pretty scary. It has the potential to high roll and close the game out pretty quickly, and he's going to have a lot of opportunities, Jonah, to execute that game plan. On MrDollSteak's part, not sure what he's going to bring. Seeing that shaman, he may opt for the control warrior, which is a bit more control oriented and might allow him to stabilize and stay in the game. So I'm going to go ahead and send the signal to our 2 players that they can go ahead and get into our 3rd game. And
Yeah, I'm gonna make a prediction that he goes with the control warrior, but let's see what he chooses.
all right, well, I sent them the signal, so we'll see if we see that control warrior. Alternatively, MrDollSteak may opt to bring that priest deck again. It does close out games quite quickly and is quite consistent as well. So game is starting.
Oh, he's back to the mech mage. Okay, so mech mage versus mech shaman. This is GVG at its best. I love
Yeah,
it.
a blast from the past, which I think is
Yes.
what this challenge was meant to accomplish.
Yeah, and it's I think that's as well. It's the nod to, because I've said this before. I really think that Blizzard gave a nod to Wild with this expansion, just making it mech centric again, because it allows players to go in and to say, hey, I've got all these old Wild cards that I haven't used anymore. Let me dust them off and use them with going and playing Wild with these new mechs.
Figuratively dust them off, literally dusting them would mean getting rid of them, of course.
Correct. Yes.
Strong start from Mr. Dollsteak here.
Yes.
Cogmaster into Mech Warper, the classic mech opener. Jonah getting Mecharoo and Mech Warper. Strong starts from both players. I'd like to point out, however, that Jonah does have the Whirling Zap-O-Matic and Mace, which could buff the Whirling Zap-O-Matic potentially, and a Taunt minion. Now, Magnetic showing why it's such a strong new ability, however, taking out that taunt.
Yeah, it's very gross. But what I've noticed from these decks is that they have a tendency to run out of fuel pretty fast. As you can see, like, both players are down to 2 cards already, and we're on turn 3. So I don't remember if I don't remember if either of them have like a Jeeves in their deck, but that certainly would be very important to continue to draw more mechs. Oh, there's the Jeeves. There we go.
But that's tricky because Jeeves will fuel both players. So the question is, does Jonah feel confident in his position, or does he believe that he's going to need more firepower to stave off this spore that MrDollSteak has developed? Opting not to play it out of fear that he may advantage his opponent.
Yeah, but he did smartly buff that correctly to get the Zap-O-Matic, the 5/4 to counter the Blast Mage.
Yeah, this is looking like a tight position here for Jonah. We can see that MrDollSteak has a Goblin Blast Mage and a Giggling Inventor and a top deck Frostbolt. While Jonah has some resources, it's not quite as robust. So unless something changes here, we could see MrDollSteak run away with this game.
Yeah, I mean the double last mage is certainly pick him out right now. Right, you're absolutely right. I don't see there's nothing that's in JonahRah's hand that's gonna help him right now. It's just gonna get destroyed by the double blast mage. I mean, I guess what he's thinking probably is buffing the gatekeeper with the power mace. That's something that would be helpful for him.
Yeah, that Power Mace, not a card that saw a lot of play in Standard. Didn't see much play in Wild either. Some of the more aggressive Shaman archetypes did run it, primarily to buff Whirling Zap-O-Matic. You know, those Wind Fury minions are certainly scary, especially when they're buffed. And the board, oh, there's the concede.
Oh, that was a very quick game.
But Jonah is going to have 2 more tries with that Mech Shaman, so we'll see if he has an opportunity to execute that game plan in the next game. So every game that I've cast has gone to game 5. Now we're going to get to see today if that's Jellycat's doing or my own. Again, I like to see games go to the maximum if possible. Secretly hoping to see that here today, just so that we can see all of the interesting choices that both players have opted to bring.
Absolutely. I mean, the fans love it as well. Everyone wants to see a close, tight game. No one wants to see someone get blown out. You know, it just feels bad on that end for sure. But yeah, I think these guys are gonna kind of close. These decks look fairly balanced. I mean, the fact that both of them brought combo priest was interesting, but yeah, it doesn't seem no list I look at more overpowering them. So I predict we're going to 5.
I'd love to see that. So we are getting into game here, and we are seeing the Control Warrior, Quest Control Warrior, versus the Mech Shaman, of course.
Now, if the Shaman gets off to a quick start, we might not be seeing any Ragnaros fireballs, but I don't think they're going to get through. It doesn't have a ton of taunts deck, but there's enough. You know, I mean, there's clearly enough to get the quest done, but I think it's gonna unless he can go on a magnetized roll. Unless JonahRah can go on a magnetized roll, it's gonna be difficult to get these taunts.
The quest is often used to close out games against grindier control decks, and as this Mech Shaman's quite aggressive, I would be surprised if we see it if we see Sulfurous played, because I do believe that the armor up is going to be of more value should MrDollSteak stabilize.
Oh, this Flame Tongue is just gross right now.
Yeah, it's a bit of a ballsy play, and
yes.
MrDollSteak is going to get punished hard.
Yeah, because following up with the removal is obviously much more ideal.
Now, if I were, well, we went for the Dirty Rat. I'd be scared to play Dirty Rat against this deck. I guess there are a few choice targets. Maybe MrDollSteak knows something that we don't.
Well, you also prevent a magnetize if you Dirty Rat.
That is very true. You get
a big butt out there, and you hopefully prevent a magnet, or you pull out a Noyatron or something that's inconsequential. Or you prevent a galvanizer from making things cheaper. Now JonahRah's got to be careful about playing. I mean, he doesn't know that there's no brawl in hand, but he's got to be careful about playing around that and throwing all of his mechs and leaving his hand completely empty.
Yeah, MrDollSteak must be hoping to top tech that brawl pretty soon. Although this weapon with dual whirlwinds, whose name escapes me, is actually going to do a fairly good job at mopping up this board, unless Jonah gets a taunt. Oh,
that's the Blood Razor, yeah. Yep.
Will MrDollSteak be able to stabilize at 6 health?
It's tough. That Flame Tongue has just done so much work right now. And here comes the Rat. It's actually pulling out the Jeeves is even worse for him right now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And he's going to execute it. That's a very smart execute. This is his only chance to come back, is to actually Well, let's see, is that lethal? No, it's not lethal. Um,
Good
is to keep his
sequencing
card
on
draw. Yeah.
MrDollSteak's part. People might be thinking, why have the rat take the damage from the whirlwind? But you may need to execute what the rat pulls. So a bit of a hedge on his part, sacrificing one inconsequential health on the dirty rat to potentially take out a choice threat. So well played by MrDollSteak. You know, these decks, these control decks always get to that razor's edge, right? You stabilize at 6 health, and now with 10 armor, you know,
Yeah,
we
that
might see
happened really quickly.
we may have seen the corner turned here. You know, MrDollSteak sitting on a full hand of resources and taunt minions. You know, this game was looking not in his favor, but despite not drawing that brawl, those whirlwind effects really did work, cleaning up that
It's
board.
no, and I really think it's a smart inclusion to bring this deck for the quest, because you know, again, everyone's bringing goblins versus gnomes decks. Everyone's bringing mech decks. Excuse me. It's a good deck against mechs as long as they don't get off to a hot start. And he is able to stabilize. And
Wow, that dry
without
whisker.
a Jeeves, yeah, without a Jeeves, there's no answer right now for card draw.
Bit of an emote there. Maybe MrDollSteak did something. Oh, well, there's the concede regardless.
We are going to a game 5.
Fantastic. Well, that Quest Warrior deck doing some serious work. You know, that Mech Shaman not being able to burst his opponent out in 2 games now. So it'll be interesting because the last deck that MrDollSteak has is that Combo Priest. So both decks are kind of similar in that they're looking for a quick game to burst things out. I don't really think that any one is favored over the other. So really, you know, anyone's game going to our conclusion of Game 5.
Yeah, you're right. It's very dependent um, on who's able to continue to draw at this point, and as we've seen, I almost want to say that the combo priest might be favored because of its ability. If it's able to heal and continue to draw off the smaller mechs, that might bode well for Dalstake. Um, so I'm interested to see, but I would think the combo priest might be the favored one in this matchup.
I'd agree. The deck is a little bit more refined and developed, probably more practiced as well. All right, so looking at Game 5 here, not is MrDollSteak going to? No, there goes the entire
Okay, I
hand
was
as
wondering
expected.
too,
Yeah,
because that seemed like an odd hand to keep. He wants to try to find the cleric if he can. I'm sure.
the cleric, the Chow, the radiant elemental. Ooh, bit of a
Not
clunker.
a, yeah, yeah, but oh, there's the cleric. Okay.
Snap, draw, and play.
Mm-hmm. The question is, do you try to buff it straight out to
Oh
against
wow, yeah.
against Zap-O-Matic?
A turn
That's the
one
one answer.
Zap-O-Matic is a scary Zap-O-Matic. I've played a lot of Aggro Shaman, and that card on turn 1 or 2 can just end games. Wow. And
So he's gonna heal it back up. He's gonna take the 6 damage.
but draw 2 cards.
It's a fair trade, I think, in that regard. Because both
So Jonah is
he's gonna
considering the
trade it.
trade.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess you do have to at this point because if you allow that cleric to just keep bouncing off the max or the cogmaster, it's game over.
So that
you have to trade out.
Yeah, that tells me that Jonah views the combo priest as the aggressor, and he views himself as the defender. It's interesting because that's not a line that many players would take. I probably would have just jammed that face, but looking to deny some resources and establish some control, and just goes to show you why Jonah is an accomplished player and why I sit at the rank 5 floor.
The rank 5 floor is a good place to be sometimes. games too, though. It's all good. Don't sell yourself short.
I only jest, of course.
Yeah, I know. No, but if he leaves it out, you know, if you do run the issue of like if he interfires it, then you know, then your mech is gone, your boards, you know, your tempo is gone, everything is. You have to trade the situation. So we've got the Coppertail Imposter hanging out, waiting to be buffed.
That's an interesting choice for combo priests. You know, stealth minions being a pretty good choice, although it only lasts the turn. So,
right.
And MrDollSteak going to utilize a very valuable Potion of Madness to try and get some control back from this board state. Taking that Cogmaster down to a 1-1, but with a mech it will become a 3-1 again. With the mace could force a trade. Not too sure what the line was there. I think really what we're seeing are both players really trying to seize that board so they can execute their game plan of bursting their opponent down.
Yeah, it reminds me of like a game of chess when you're just kind of like trading off some pawns here and there because there's such all these minions are so small and you're looking for that little 1 or 2 point advantage of health or damage that you can get, and it's so difficult. Well, the buff on the Shredder is definitely going to help him.
So that Shredder is nasty, and even though we have that 210 taunt mech without the inner fire, not going to be able to turn that into a giant big boy.
I wonder if, well, would the Flame Tongue and the Power Mace get rid of that? If my math is correct, yeah.
You are absolutely right.
Actually, okay, no, actually the Shredder and the Flame,
yeah,
because of the buff. Okay, there we go.
And this is starting to look dicey for MrDollSteak here, although these games can swing quite rapidly. With the Cleric, still lots of opportunities to draw cards and potentially collect combo pieces necessary to close this out. But with that Flame Tongue, the 7-4, and the Power Mace, that 112 is in a whole heap of trouble.
Right, and it was interesting that he added the extra buff to the Cleric instead of using the heal to draw more cards on that turn. I'm curious about that. Unless he did, yeah, he did have 2. If he hadn't buffed it because he had the 1 extra mana, he would have had the, yeah. Because now if the Cleric dies, then he's just out.
And that's exactly what's going to happen right here.
Oh, wait, it's 1 short. Okay. Oh. So he's going to be able to draw... So DollSteak's going to be able to draw 1 card, at least.
But what's that card gonna do?
Even if it was Inner Fire. Well, it's a Velen's Chosen. Something. It's still not enough to kill the 11-5. That's still a problem.
Oh, and there's the Whirling. Whirling number 2.
Yeah. I think at this point Jonah is just taking over on the aggression.
Yeah, running away here, managing to finally execute that mech shaman game plan.
Yeah, the inability to take out that Shredder is really hurting DollSteak. I mean, he does sit at 29 health. It's not, you know, there's no OTK here coming from the mechs, but it's going to chip down very, very quickly.
I mean, this board state unanswered is 2 turns away from game. Not sure what could be drawn, maybe outside of a Psychic Scream if that card's even run to save him here.
Yeah. Oh, he's going to trade the Acolyte smartly. I mean, again, you want to avoid card draw.
Yeah, 1 card is better than 2 or 3.
Oh, the long-awaited silence.
Yeah, still.
I've been in that situation where you're like, where were you 3 turns ago? I'm assuming Jonah's not going to play that Chiefs.
No, I can't imagine. Oh, he will.
He is.
My goodness. All right. Interesting choice.
Well, yeah, but at this point, DollSteak is so low in health against this strong board.
Yeah, and Jonah
It's
opting to
almost
trade here.
irrelevant. Because without anything to buff on board, it really is irrelevant.
And there's always Potion of Madness, but
But the top deck of the Crackle is going to end.
Yeah. And there's the well played, and I think that Jonah has enough here to comfortably close out this game.
Yeah, I certainly do. Congratulations to Jonah on Friday night, the match.
But credit to MrDollSteak for forcing a game 5. This almost was a sweep.
Absolutely, it's a heck of a comeback.
Of course, well played. So a really interesting set, lots of interesting decks. That I'm sure that Jonah was sweating it out with that Mech Shaman right until the end, but because he had the opportunity to queue it 3 games, he was able to find a win with it finally.
Yes.
So good on him for that. So both players have agreed to do a quick post-game interview. I'm going to see if I can get them into a call. So Wildcard, I'm going to drop here for just a quick moment and try to get all players in. So stand by for that post-game interview.
Okay.
All right. Great game, guys. Just going to do a quick roll call to see if I have everyone here. Wildcard.
I am here.
Jonah.
I'm here.
And MrDollSteak.
Yo.
Hey, guys. So that was an awesome set. Almost a sweep. A potential comeback that was almost had. How'd you guys feel about that set?
Oh, look, it was really cool from my perspective. Those first 2 games, I thought, all right, it's all over now, but managed to get in some. Look, it came down to that mage game, I think, against the Mech Shaman, and because if I hadn't won that, obviously it would have been the 3-0. But I was pretty confident I could win with the Warrior. It ended up being a pretty close game there as well for a bit. But yeah, the combo priest deck was certainly the one I was not 100% sure about. And I think the results show that, losing all of its games.
I was pretty inconfident about my shaman. I was not sure if that thing was going to win.
So Jonah, you made an interesting play in the final game with the Mech Shaman. You coined out the Whirling Zap-O-Matic and then opted to trade that into the Northshire Cleric. And I was commenting that I would have likely incorrectly have gone face there. Maybe you could talk a little bit about your thought process when you made that play.
Well, against old combo priest, you really win by running them out of stuff, because once they get into top deck mode, their deck just doesn't really function very well because there's so many like little combos it tries to do. So really, the way the shaman usually wins is by snowballing a lead and by just killing all the priest stuff, which is how I ended up winning the game. And like if I don't kill the cleric there, he always snowballs, he always wins. Like if he has like an inner fire or something like that there, he just wins the game on the spot the next turn if I don't trade.
Makes good sense. I was really happy to see that Mech Shaman. It was a really nice tip of your hat to, what was considered standard back in the day meta decks. I remember Mech Shaman having its day in the sun for about 5 minutes. So it was kind of fun to see that. It was a nice showcase deck.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, no, go ahead.
Going back, I probably would have put some stuff like War Deer in the deck if I was building it again. Because generally with Jeeves decks, you want like Jeeves to be at the top of the curve for the most part. And I was like, I'll just spam all my stuff and then play Jeeves, and then I'll just kill him with the burn spells. But I definitely needed some more beefy stuff to actually kill my opponents in that deck.
What did you guys think
I was surprised to see the 1/5 magnetic taunt in the deck. When you put that on the Shredder and got a crazy trade with it, I just thought that was unexpected.
Yeah, that's like the only mech I've played with, because I just played like mech combo priest in standard. So I was like, this thing's always good whenever I play it. I always feel good about this, so I'll just put it in my deck. Kind of worked.
What did you guys think
definitely
about the restrictions this week? Did that bring any problems for you, like in creating these decks, or?
Well, I thought personally that the restrictions were really cool, and I actually, used that to plan my lineup for last week because I was pretty happy with the decks that I came up with this week. I mean, obviously the priest one was probably the one that was going to be the most inconsistent, but I could have done a hunter deck maybe for commons, like Get Me Out did, but I figured that priest might be a good one to have because it could quite well fit the quest archetype as well. So I thought it might have been able to send some mind games there, but I'm dealing with Jonah and he guessed my full lineup completely, but I did manage to guess his as well. When I saw Rogan there, I figured it would be Quest. So yeah, I thought that it was really cool rules because you could guess what kind of decks people would bring, and actually the Pauper decks ended up being able to go against Quest ones, pretty well for the most part.
Yeah, go ahead.
I kind of figured my lineup would be pretty easy to guess. I think my most played deck ever is Combo Priest. One of the second most played decks I ever have is probably Aggro Shaman, and then probably in Wild, at least recently, the road deck I've been playing a lot is Quest Road. So I kind of figured my lineup would be easy to guess.
So you have been playing Quest Rogue in Wild, so I know that's made a bit of a resurgence in Standard, much to Reddit's dismay. How do you feel that deck's been performing in Wild? Because it doesn't really seem to have a big presence on ladder yet.
To me, it just seems like Queensbane Road, but just a lot better than Queensbane Road. Mainly because if you play against a Queensbane Road, you just freeze their face constantly, and they can't do anything, and it's hilarious. It beats Todd Druid too, because they switch decks with you, and then their deck is just a bunch of 1/1s and 2/1s, and you have 4/4s. So it's pretty easy to win that matchup. The only, besides the aggro matchups, the only slow deck that can beat it really is Starliner Druid, but it also just farms the Reno decks too. It's like concede turn 1 type matchups.
So is it fair to say that you are not joining the chorus of voices to nerf the Quest a third time?
I just think they should get rid of the card. Like it's pretty stupid. It's not very fun to play. It's interesting to play against. It creates interesting games, but when one of the best plays to do against it, when you see the ding go up is just to hit concede, like that's not very fun.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like seeing any rogue these days on ladder because it usually means I'm gonna get a scoop and a loss. MrDollSteak, the Quest Warrior deck you brought, I thought was a pretty good choice. The fact that you were able to avoid the Quest Rogue meant that you were able to get a favorable matchup with it. Was that why you were hesitating to queue it up for your initial game? What were your thoughts behind your Quest Warrior deck?
Definitely. No, you not hit the nail on the head there. I figured that for the Boomsday and GVG restricted decks, they would always be sort of aggro mech. Pauper would probably be aggro or combo, combo priest, or a few things like that. Whereas, the quest decks are probably the ones that'd be weaker against. So I thought I'd bring a really anti-aggro quest deck. In this case, the warrior one. It did everything I wanted it to, being able to solidify an aggro game. And so yeah, that's why I queued it up late. I figured the reason why I queued priest first was because I thought if I can steal a win with the priest deck against whatever it was, then I think I'd be in a good shape, because then I would just end up jamming mage every single game until I got the warrior and shaman at the end there. And even then, against the quest rogue, it probably wouldn't have been a very good lineup. But I did have a lot of clears. I had 2 brawls. I have all the whirlwind effects, and then the hero power isn't too bad against the 4/4s as well. But yeah, look, I definitely agree with Jonah's sentiments there. I think the fact that it's been nerfed twice and it's still a good card, it's really hard to see what they could do to ruin that deck, because it's literally inversed from 4 and 5/5s to 5 and 4/4s. What are they going to do? Make it 6 and 4/4s? Like, that doesn't fundamentally change the matchups that much. So
It is
I
actually
really just don't see.
It's kind of interesting how much of it, there's a lot more counterplay to it now, though. There actually is some, Azalina can sometimes just hard counter Quest Road, which is kind of funny. And does the fact that they're 4/4s mean that that is kind of fatiguable now, but it's still just not really fun to play against.
Right, and you can't exactly nerf it again because I think that's just
Yeah.
it's just a bad look to Blizzard. You have to almost do like, and of course for the I mean you could Hall of Fame it for standard, but that doesn't help anyone in Wild. We're still stuck with it forever. There's really nothing they can do at this point from our perspective.
If they fix Giggling Inventor and make that card less powerful, it really hurts Westroad. So I don't. If they just fix the Giggling Inventor, make it, give it the Naga treatment or the Warsong treatment, then I think
Mhm.
Westroad dies out. So
Yeah, they might just have to bite bullet on it.
yeah.
Well, it will
Well-
be interesting to see what Blizzard does. They tend to do nerfs about 6 to 8 weeks after the set comes out. So, I think that the chorus of rumblings will continue to build up. We'll probably start hearing some sense as to what direction they're going to take soon.
Right. Well, thank you both guys, and congratulations on your games today. Do you have any final thoughts before we leave you? I'm sorry. Where can everyone find you on the interwebs?
You can find me at twitch.tv/JonahRah, sometimes streaming, probably streaming a lot more regularly now. And my Twitter is JonahRahHS. That's it, yeah.
Mr.
And in
DollSteak?
my case, just Twitter, same sort of deal, just MrDollSteak there. I'll probably be posting the deck list from today. Not that I expect anyone to queue Pauper Quest Priest into a ladder, but just for everyone to check out. But yeah, just shout outs to everyone that's watching today, to Jonah, and to you guys for casting as well, and just I've been having a lot of fun with this tournament so far. Interested to see what some of the more restrictions for deck building are going to be like.
Well, thank you for those kind words. It was great to see you guys play. So I think we're going to go ahead and end it there. So I'll take this opportunity to wish everyone a happy Friday and good games. Any final thoughts, Wildcard, before I close the stream?
No. Just everyone have enjoy their Labor Day weekend and good luck. And this is the final day of the season. So I'm sure everyone's got some heavy grinding to do after this. But good luck in your quest to get Legend if that is your goal, or rank 5, or whatever you're are going for. You can find me on Twitter at Wildcard Hearth. You can find me on YouTube at Wildcard, and on Twitch at Wildcard Hearthstone. And how about you, Blue?
I'm mostly active on Discord in the various wild communities. I do have a Twitter that is set to private. I'm considering opening it up. Call me a little bit paranoid in that regard, but feel free to request a follow. I'm certainly going to allow you to accept. Just a quick note as well, we do have a match tomorrow between Nate Wolf and Craig of Canada, the co-creators of Into the Wild, a matinee at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, early afternoon game if you're out east. Probably going to be a lot of fun. I'll be tuning in as it is early in the morning, so try not to miss it if you can. Of course, if you do miss it, you can give the Into the Wild HS channel on YouTube a follow, where all the VODs are being posted of these games, so check that out as well. So with that, I'll bid you all a good evening. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thanks. Good night.